So today we are chatting with John, who is an ordained, self-supporting ordained pioneer minister who is working just south of Blackfriars Bridge with me at Christchurch, Blackfriars. So thanks, John, for your time. So big first question. So for you, how do you understand being an ordained pioneer minister?
I guess first of all, it is fundamentally being a priest, a minister. But then there's something about having an intentional sense of trying new things, of exploring new ways of doing church, of being a bit entrepreneurial. And these things aren't necessarily solely pioneers, but it's just it's something that as a pioneer minister, it's part of your DNA.
Thank you. So you've been now at Christchurch, I think it's technically Christchurch Southwark with me, Christchurch Blackfriars Bridge. So do you want to say something about how, in that context, the Fresh Expressions commitment to listening, loving, service, and building community? Do you want to say a little bit about the story as you've experienced it and your role in that as a pioneer?
Sure. When I arrived, there had been a process that had been underway of actively listening and going out to the community to speak with, listen to the experiences and perspectives of those who live and work in the local area, really taking the time to understand the context of the local people, and based on that, and using that as the foundation on which to make broader decisions about what we do and how we do it. I think there was both the listening exercise and also the context of COVID made it particularly difficult to understand who was in the area, especially somewhere like Blackfriars has a very high transient population of commuters, for example. But the exercise of listening and the reflecting on the things we heard and saw has given us a good base on which to build what we do.
And I'm remembering that we did an event quite early on, which you did around that title of Solstice. Do you want to say a bit more about what the vision for that was and what you hope that would achieve?
Sure. Solstice was in response to the listening exercise and also as a response to 15 years, 20 years living in London and seeking the kind of contemplative place to be and to engage. It kind of came out of a few summers where I spent at the Greenbelt Festival, full of noise and energy and passion and creativity, which was all fantastic. And the question I asked myself was, what could we do in an urban environment that doesn't require the same amount of, organizations and famous, pop groups and whatnot to come and join, but can be simple and accessible, and obviously have that contemplative side to it. And so it was just a 36-hour period of intentional silence and meditation, simple traditional evening prayers, morning prayer, good conversation and discussion, and eating together. Nothing more than that, but it attracted a really fantastically broad range of people, and a really fun time was had.
Great. And so do you think that worked with how many of those who came do you think were dechurched or unchurched?
Interestingly, I think we had the full breadth, right? We had a core 3 or 4 people who were completely dechurched, unchurched, and we also had the other extreme, 3 or 4 people who found what we did a little bit challenging because they had come from that other more traditional Christian experience and way of being. So that was both fantastic, but also challenging in itself, and making sure everybody felt that they were welcome and supported and could engage. So I think it was part of the challenge and part of the joy.
Thank you. And so coming right up to date now, and this idea of trying to do mission and a mixed ecology, because this area is really quite unique in the sense of that balance between places that people used to work before COVID and a small residential community and large amounts of hotels right in the city centre. How do you see things developing in terms of that mixed ecology and pioneering for you?
I guess firstly, it's the unavoidable need of continued listening to the community that changes around you, whether you like it or not. and uh, acknowledging what the change is happening, and responding to that in a way which is both authentic to the traditions, to our theology, our faith, but also relevant and engaging and inspiring and creative as well, to help people on their own journey wherever they are on it.
And how do you see your role? Because I'm thinking about those who are not yet returned to offices and businesses, and your role in terms of yourself, funding yourself from a kind of a business perspective. So thinking about the great number and the potential, I suppose, is what I'm saying, around the unchurched and dechurched who maybe work in the area. Have you had any ideas about what that might start to look like out of listening?
I think it's part from the listening, but also from as someone who has a current corporate facing job with the same Zoom meetings and deadlines and late nights and Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations. I think that I can understand much of what the stresses and strains are in people's business lives who are whizzing along Blackfriars Road on their bikes. And so one of the key criteria for me is what makes sense to people's lives, to people's patterns. Where in their daily pattern can we offer a space for spiritual deepening and journeying and exploration and community building, all the standard things that every parish should be doing, but it's being aware that this particular parish is unique and every parish is unique, and then trying to craft and adapt what you do to serve the people who need that.
So one of the things that seems to have happened at Christchurch is the founding of beginnings of a new monastic community, trying to engage with spiritual seekers. What's your experience of that for you?
It's been a lot of fun, as these things always are. Also challenging. You have people who are obviously really engaged with the faith, but come from their various backgrounds too, with all the bumps and bruises that we have on our different spiritual journeys. But the pattern, the weekly, daily pattern of prayer, of socializing, of talk, of study, that pattern of life, that monastic pattern of life, is something I find really enriching, and just shows the ancient wisdom in it. Because just in the last few months, even though we've only been able to do Zoom or Discord calls mostly, relationships have been built, people have been growing and journeying, and it's been really lovely to see.
And so finally, so you've been at Christchurch for a little while, and thinking about this whole focus that Church of England has about mixed ecology and fresh expressions being part of that mixed ecology with traditional experiences. How for you do you see the holding of the tension between those who want to keep the church the way it is and those who are maybe more closer to the edge about wanting to see the church adapt to the context? How do you see somewhere like Christchurch holding the tension with that mixed ecology, with people coming from completely different places?
I guess the first thing is to say that it's not easy by definition. If it was easy, it wouldn't be the right thing. And having and sustaining the grace and the compassion for each communities, each tradition's origins and fears and passions, it's obviously not going to be an easy thing to do, but it feels something that's therefore deeply important to do and to keep at, even though there will be bumps along the way. And some things will always be under strain, and I think the one of the mistakes to make is that the pretending that you can ever find a solution to this. It's going to be a journey we're going to be on forever, maybe, and that's okay. We're journeying together, pilgrims, and I think I have hope that we can do that in the long term.
And finally, so thinking about those that you're in contact with who are unchurched and dechurched, or maybe recently churched, how do you see Christchurch responding to these needs?
I think Christchurch has the potential to be a place which finds that balance between innovation and listening and engaging the spiritual, not religious, and the Dechurched in ways that they need, but also being really authentic and robust in a generous orthodoxy, in a tradition which has roots and foundations which are beautiful and true, and things that we can draw upon to sustain the creativity and sustain the innovation and to sustain the mixed ecology. So for me, it's about having both interplaying at the same time to make it truly an enriching place to be.
Great, thanks, John. And if you want to listen to a bit more about what's going on at Christchurch, then do look up our website, which is www.ccblackfriars.org. John, thanks for your time.
My pleasure.